And my name is Michelle Malin. I'm the Vice President of Development for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater San Diego. Thank you for joining the webinar today, Staff for Success. Uh, all the handouts from this presentation will be available for you. Feel free to submit questions as we go along. I'll also leave time at the end to answer any questions you might have. I've included my personal contact information, so you can also follow up with me after the fact if you have any additional questions or if I can be of any help to you. I've worked for Boys and Girls Clubs for 23 years. The first 17 plus years were in operations, and about 5.5 years ago I made the switch over to development. So that's just a little bit about me. I always like to start with a reminder to never forget why we are here. Every person who works for the club, every volunteer, every board member, everyone who works to help our cause changes the lives of the kids we serve. And as development staff, you probably aren't interacting with the kids on a daily basis, but what you do has a profound impact. So I hope that you never forget that. A little bit of background on the Boys and Girls Club of Greater San Diego. Our organization is very large. We have a service area that spans more than 2,000 square miles, and we have 19 locations. And this year, this fiscal year, we have a budget of over $9 million. But we weren't always that large. We didn't start out that way. We were much smaller organizations. Our current organization is the result of 3 separate mergers that brought 4 different Boys and Girls Club organizations together over a number of years. And so traditionally, our fundraising was very heavily event-driven. And our board members loved their events. They loved throwing a good party. And if we needed more money, then they thought we should write more grants, because grants must be an easy way to get money, right? So that was kind of the 2 things that our board really heavily relied on. Is they loved their fundraising events, and they thought we should just always be writing more grants. And so our development department, if you could really call it that, consisted of an event coordinator and a grant writer. And so our event-driven fundraising, we were always in event modes. We had 4 major events that kind of attracted people from all over the organization, all 2,000 square miles of our service area. One was a 144-person golf tournament. We had an auction and gala. We had a 2-day holiday extravaganza, which was really 4 different separate events and all rolled into one. And then we had a food and wine festival. And we had 2 smaller community-focused golf tournaments. 3 of those events ran from between February and early June, and then the other 3 were from September through December. And so we were always in event mode, and everyone agreed we should have less events, but no one wanted to lose their special event. And so the results of being event-driven fundraising is staff were always in event mode. We always had people who were upset at us because they didn't feel like we were giving their event enough attention, but we probably had 2 or 3 events before their event came up, and so there was no way we could give everybody the attention they wanted. Our board, volunteers, and donors were all really burnt out on events. They felt they were constantly being asked to contribute and to attend events, and it was just really getting a little old for them. And even though we made a pretty good chunk of money on each of the events, when you looked at all the time and resources that went into those events and all the things that we couldn't do because of them, it wasn't an efficient way to do business. Because we were also focused on events, and our development department was really just an events person, we didn't have anyone on staff who was 100% focused on relationship-based fundraising. So we kind of relied on who we had on staff to develop relationships and try to do individual solicitations. So our senior management team did a lot of that, but of course they had to squeeze that in among all their other duties as well. And so we decided that we had to make a change. And our organization was growing, and we really couldn't keep up with the resources needed to support that growth by doing business the same way that we had always done things. So we needed to do something different. And so at one point, our board of directors brought in a consultant to review our fundraising practices, and they really said that we needed to invest in additional staff to raise additional revenue. That was really the only way that we could make that happen. And so it didn't happen overnight, but the org chart shows what it looks like right now, what we have on our development team. I feel very blessed that I have such a large team. I know most organizations don't have the depth of personnel that we do. So like I said, it didn't happen overnight. We added these positions as we could, one at a time. And but it's really worked for us, and we've seen it pay off. Once upon a time, our grant writer not only wrote the grants, but they also had to do all the grant reporting for us. So they compiled the information from the sites, they reported things back, and they were also trying to make sure we stayed on track with things. And so that both jobs are a pretty big role, and something was always falling through the cracks because when reports were due, grants were due as well, and so we ended up splitting that up into a grant writer position and a grant and compliance analyst. And so now our grant writer is focused 100% on securing grants. And that's really more than just writing. That person also goes out and develops relationships with foundations and community groups that can help us get grants. And then our grant compliance analyst helps make sure that we stay on track. So once we receive a grant, she works with all of our sites to ensure that they know what is going on, what is expected of them. She goes out and she does compliance visits to make sure all the paperwork and the program is on track. She compiles all the reports and communicates with the funders and just keeps us moving forward. Our marketing and communications manager manages our website, all of our social media, works with our marketing department, and creates or works in partnership with our marketing department to create all promotional materials. And that's for everything. That's for the operations side of things, from program flyers and day camp announcements to special events, mail campaigns, and things like that. He's involved in all aspects of those, working with the rest of the team to develop whatever is needed. Our development coordinator, actually, we just renamed that position and gave a promotion to that position, and it is now the director of special events. So that position works with all of our fundraising event committees, and she develops relationships with those committees and in those communities to help solicit donations, sponsorships, auction items, all of those type of things, and helps keep our events moving forward. Our director of individual giving is exactly what it sounds like. She's focused entirely on individuals and developing relationships with our donors. Primary focus is on major donors, but she does work with new donors and potential major donors to see if we can get them into the fold and work them up. And our director of strategic partnerships is really responsible for all of our corporate giving. So she works with the corporations who give us money to develop a deeper relationship. It's really easy to ask someone to write a check, but we found that we can get them more engaged if we actually get them involved in the club. So in addition to soliciting funds, she works with our corporate partners to get their senior management involved in our board of directors and in other committees. She works to get their employees and or customers involved as volunteers and in other aspects of the club. We found that the more ways that we can connect the corporations to the organization, the more we are able to grow funds from those corporations. So that's kind of what our department looks like today. As I said, we kind of added these positions over time. but it's really worked to kind of segment out um, the tasks in this manner for us. What makes a good development staff person? So taking classes in fundraising, being part of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and knowing a lot of people are all great things, but that doesn't automatically make you a great development staff member. And so sometimes, you can get applicants that have a lot of great credentials on paper, um, but that doesn't always mean that they're going to be able to ask for money and close the deal and help get you the funding that you need. And so what we found really works is making sure that the people that we have in the department have the right skills that we need, and then we can always teach them some of the fundamentals about fundraising. So first and foremost, a development staff person really needs to be engaging. They need to know how to form relationships with people. They need to know how to interact with people, to get people to share their stories, for them to share stories about the club and the kids, and really be able to sincerely build relationships, because people know when people are being phony, and they know when people don't really care about them. So you need people on your staff who are really, you know, people. They really like interacting with people. They're sincere, they're engaging, and they are passionate about your mission. So they need to be able to go out and speak passionately about what you're doing. They can't just read off your website about what you're doing. They need to know enough about your club that they can share stories and share firsthand accounts of what is going on in the club. And most importantly, this should seem like a no-brainer, but we've seen lots of development staff come through our doors who don't really like to ask for money. And that is the number one thing. You can't be afraid to ask for money if you're in the development department. You need to not be wishy-washy about it. You need to not, you know, uh, you just need to be able to come straight out and ask for the money, ask for the gift, ask for the investment in the kids, and not feel badly about it, because we're not asking for someone to give us personally money. We're asking for someone to invest in our cause, and it's a very worthwhile cause. So we need people to understand that and to believe that. We all want superheroes on our staff. We want superstars, and those can be hard to find. Finding the right people, it does take time. We had one position, our director of individual giving. That position, it turned over 6 times in 4 years. And that can be really difficult, because you keep having people start, and they're starting to maybe develop some relationships, and then they're gone. And that can really hurt your reputation with donors. But by the same token, you want to have the right people on board. So some of the 6 people that we had come through our doors over the 4 years, some of them left on their own. Others we knew after a short amount of time that they weren't the right person for the organization or for the position. Again, some of those folks were the ones that didn't like to ask for money. They wanted to organize everybody else to go ask for money, and that's not really what we needed. We didn't need an organizer. We needed somebody to develop those relationships. So now we finally have someone in that position. She's been in the position for about 1.5 years, but she was with the organization for 5 years before that. So we're hoping that she'll be with us for the long term. Finding the right people can be difficult, but sometimes they're right under your nose. So half of our development team actually comes from a program background. So like I said before, just because you've attended fundraising classes and you're part of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, that doesn't automatically make you a great resource development team member. And so we ended up looking from within and found some program people that had the skills and the qualities that we were looking for, and we might have, in some instances we had to teach them a little bit about fundraising fundamentals, but they had the underlying skills that we felt were needed to be successful, and they have so far. So And so program people, if they come from the program side of things and they're interested in resource development, uh, they're already passionate about your cause. They can speak firsthand to it, about the program and the impact. And so I would really encourage you not to rule them out just because they're from the program side of things. Take a look at that and see if you can build upon their skills. This model has worked for us to split it up into very specific categories and job expectations because it's hard for one person to excel in every aspect. So our director of corporate or strategic partnerships who works with our corporations, she's great at going out and just knocking on doors of large corporations or picking up the phone and calling and reaching out and getting her foot in the door and developing those relationships and working with them to develop a one-on-one, a mutually beneficial relationship. And not everybody can do that. And by the same token, our grant writer is great with not only writing, but getting out and developing those relationships with those foundations and things like that. So when everybody has their clearly defined positions and expectation, it creates a clear focus. There's stated goals and objectives, and everybody knows where they fit in on the team. And we draw on the strengths of the team. So everybody has their own strengths, but together it makes us all stronger, and everybody does what is needed to make the team a success. One of the keys is also that we hold each other accountable. We all have a meeting every Monday to kick off the week to say what everybody's working on, what they need help on, what they're intending to produce during the week. And so it's really a good system of keeping everybody on track and keeping the focus there. It's really easy to get lost in the day-to-day minutia of all the things that are going on, and I know in clubs we're all wearing multiple hats. Even when we do have a set specific role, there's always a lot of things going on, and it can be really difficult to stay focused and to hold everyone accountable. And so one of the tools that we use is we have this cultivation log, which is up on the screen now. And so we have monthly cultivation meetings where we all have a set number of goals of how many face-to-face meetings we should be having, how many other cultivation touches we're doing either by phone or email. And then we record those and we share those once a month. And everyone on the cultivation team share those with one another. And that includes our CEO and myself as the vice president. We bring in our list as well because we feel if we are asking our staff to keep track and to make sure they're hitting a number of face-to-face meetings, that it's important for us to do the same thing. So different team members might have different goals for those amount of meetings and touches, but we all report back and we all share the progress. It's also not enough just to have the meetings, so we really do share what we're doing with those prospects, we discuss strategies, what are the next steps. If we've been meeting with somebody and they've been on the fence for a while and we haven't been able to get that gift, we strategize as a team of what we need to do with that person. And sometimes it's bringing in somebody else. Maybe they're on the list of one of our team members, but they really need a face-to-face with our CEO. Or maybe we need to get a board member involved who has a connection with that donor or that prospect to see if they can help us to finally secure that gift. And so we talk about those strategies at this meeting and we set next steps so that we can continue to move forward. We also drop prospects from the list. So if a team member has been spending a lot of time on a particular company or an individual and they keep showing up as we're having meetings with them and it's sort of coming along but not really, we might decide to drop that person from or that company from the list. It's just not worth our time at some point if we haven't been able to secure some sort of a gift at that point. So this cultivation log is really kind of a framework for us as a staff, as a team, to kind of keep track of all of those. As well as the log helps us celebrate our successes as well, because if somebody has secured a large gift, we can give each other recognition and kudos for that. But it's just not enough to hold ourselves accountable. We also want to be accountable to our board of directors. And so on a quarterly basis, we have what we call our scorecard, and this is based off of our strategic plan. This is only part of it, but this is the part that relates to the resource development team. And so once a month, or once a quarter, I'm sorry, we report back to our board members at a board meeting on the progress in some key areas. So you'll see the strategic goals listed there and the metrics that we've developed to kind of track our progress in that. So some of the things, as I said before, we track our meetings, or face-to-face meetings with major donors and prospects, how many new donors we've gotten, what we've brought in through certain categories, and then if we've recruited and developed our board members well. Those are some of the things that we record. If you look at this, it's kind of supposed to be like a traffic light. So green means go, you're making good progress, you're on track, you're meeting or exceeding all the goals. If it's yellow, it means proceed with caution. So we're within 10% of the goal, but we're not quite there yet, so we know we need to give it a little bit of attention. There's no red on here, but if we were more than 10% away from the goal, it would be a red, which means that there is a real problem, and that gives us an opportunity to talk to the board about what is the issue with this category and how are we going to get past it. And even though this one doesn't have any red, we do have red categories from time to time. Sometimes it's a timing issue, other times there is a problem, and we need to strategize the solution to get that into a green category. So that just helps keep us accountable to the board, lets them know what's going on, and helps them be a part of it as well. So some of it, like I said, we are a team and we all work together, so we're all for one and one for all. And some of the tips that have worked for us is we break down the bigger goals into smaller bite-sized pieces. So for example, our goal for contributions for the year is $650,000. So that can be an overwhelming number, and so it can be difficult to track if we just leave it as that big number. It can be difficult to track how we're doing on the progress and if we are staying on course to hit our goals. And so what we do with that number and for all the different categories is we break them down into smaller pieces, and we assign responsibility for those different pieces to different members of the team. And then we're on a monthly and quarterly basis, we're able to track those to make sure we know if we are on track or if we need to shift gears somehow. So our revenue goal for contributions is broken down into corporate giving and major donors, reoccurring donors, lapsed donors, mail campaigns, so and several other little bits. And so we have these categories and we have set goals for all of those categories, and we have assignments to specific team members so that we can measure the progress. We integrate best practices from other places, so we know that we don't have all of the answers and that there's lots of great resources out there. So our staff is constantly networking with other Boys and Girls Clubs, other nonprofits. We're reading different fundraising blogs and going to different trainings and things like that, and trying to bring in those best practices in-house as well. So we also brainstorm as a team. So even though we have individualized goals for every team member, we really work together as a team to help one another out. And we know that when we are successful as individuals and we work together as a team, we can be more successful as a team. So it's not us versus them. And at the end of the year, um, if something comes in a different category than what we thought it would, the main goal is that we've reached our overarching goals. And so we try not to have any infighting over money. Does that count as this or does this count as this? Because that's not really important. We focus on the team approach, and when one of us is successful, we are all successful. I think that's really important as well, because there is a lot of overlap. Our director of strategic partnerships, she works with our corporations, but corporations are made up of individuals. And our director of individual giving, she works with individuals, but many of those individuals work in large corporations. And so there's going to be overlap between the different categories, but when you're all working as a team and with the ultimate goal of raising those funds for your sites, that everyone can be successful, and that's the important part. So you may say, well, we're a small organization, or we just cannot afford to hire additional people. What can we do? Well, I still believe that you can apply the lessons from this presentation at your club. Investing in staff has worked for us, but I realize that not everyone can just go out and hire additional staff, at least not right away. So here are just some of the things that I feel that you can do to help get you on this path. And hopefully if you have successes using some of these suggestions, then you would be able to get your board and your executive team to hopefully invest in some additional staff to help with fundraising. So the first thing I say is look at your existing resources, your executive director, board of directors, any full-time program managers you have, even part-time staff and volunteers, and who has the skills that you need for the various roles. So for example, I told you that I started my career on the operations side of things. We did not have a large development department for many of those years that I worked for the organization. And as the vice president of operations, I actually dealt with all of our corporate partners at the time. Now, I didn't necessarily go out and actively solicit corporate partners like we have someone doing now, but the corporate partners that we did have, I worked with them to develop a relationship, to get them into the club, to find ways for them to support the club through funds that work for them as well. We had other people who worked in different capacities to recruit other people in and to solicit things. So you can look at different people in your organization and define the different roles and then see who do we have. We have one part-time staff who has always been great at going out and raising funds and getting community support. She doesn't want to work in development. She doesn't want to work full-time, but she loves the club and wants to go out and ask people to support it. So that's a great resource to have. I would bet that some of you have those people as well. So, you know, really look at the skills that you need and the roles that you need, and then see who do I have that fits this. And make assignments and hold people accountable. Some keys to success is, like I said, we have well-defined goals. So we know in advance of the whole year, fiscal year, you know, what our goals are, how we're going to get there. We're tracking the progress. We meet regularly to track the progress and to strategize the next step and to hold each other accountable, like I said. And then we celebrate the small victories as well as the big ones, because every small one can lead up to big dollars in the end, or big changes. So you have Snoopy there who's clapping, and we actually have what we call clapper moments. So we have these plastic clapper things, and when a check comes in that we didn't expect, or if someone got a meeting that they've been working on for a while, um, if someone got a donor to increase a gift, we celebrate those. We go through the office clapping our plastic clappers as just a way to celebrate that we are making progress towards our goals. And you know, we are making progress, and we recognize that these small victories are important. Any questions out there? Anyone? All right. Well, if there's no questions, that's my presentation. I thank you all for joining us today. And again, if I can be a resource to you, I am happy to do so.